Welcome to our Crime and Intelligence Analysis Certificate information session. We're just really excited to have you all here today to join us and learn more about this program. Today, what we plan on doing is introducing the team to you. We have a wonderful staff that supports this program. We'd like to provide an overview of our crime program highlights. Our lead instructor, who you've already heard from a bit, will tell you what you can expect in this program, as well as telling you a bit about our students and our graduates. We'll take some time to answer the questions that you're entering into the chat box. And finally, we'll provide you with some registration information as well as our email addresses, and we'll have a closing poll for you. I'm happy and honored to introduce you to the team today. My name is Danelle Pankratz, and I serve as the program manager for this program. And I'm joined today by Brian Gray, our lead instructor, who you'll learn more about in just a moment. Also, Makata Seyum, she is our program coordinator, and she serves as the main point of contact for applicants and students. And Malem Sharp, our instructional designer. So we're very proud to say that 2021 marks the Crime and Intel Analysis program's 30th year. And in that time, we've equipped over 500 graduates who have successfully completed our program. And we welcome new Titans to our program every fall and spring. So we hope that you'll be one of those new Titans. We have, the program consists of 8 required courses and a 400-hour internship. Currently, the courses are being offered virtually, and the program takes between 12 and 18 months to complete. Upon completion of the program, students are awarded both a certificate from Cal State Fullerton as well as a certificate from LEIU, which is the Law Enforcement Intelligence Units Association. In addition, our students have free access to software like Adobe, SPSS, Dropbox, Grammarly, LinkedIn Learning, Office 365, and Windows 10. Before I turn it over to Brian, I'd just like to give him a brief introduction. Brian Gray is a graduate of this crime program, and he now has over 28 years of experience in law enforcement. He serves as the Central Crime and Intel Analysis Unit Manager and as our lead instructor. I'm excited for you all to learn what he has to share with you today. Take it away, Brian.
Okay, great. Let's advance to the next slide. First off, thank you for joining us. And I hope to answer all of your questions before the session is over. But I'll just kind of briefly go through the program and talk a little bit about it. And as Danelle has stated, I am a graduate of the program. So I had received a BA in criminal justice from Cal State Fullerton, and had started some law school classes at the time. And I ended up deciding, I met someone who said, you know what, I don't want to marry a cop and I don't want to marry a lawyer. And I was just absolutely smitten. I thought, you know, I'm probably gonna marry this girl, and I want to consider that because, you know, there's lots of things you can do in law enforcement. So at the time, I had applied for probation, but probation was having a rough time themselves financially. And I saw this course, and I thought this is a great time to you know, take this course. It will keep my brain active until I kind of decide which avenue I'm going to go. And once I got into the program, I really fell in love with the program, and I think you will too. It just touched me in a way that interested me in a lot of different ways, a lot of different things. And I was not working in law enforcement. I was a mechanic, and I sold auto parts and tires. And that was my bread and butter. But I was tired of getting greasy and grimy and bringing sandpaper into the shower to clean my hands. And I really took this seriously. So I started the program. In those days, the program took a lot longer to get through than it does today. And when I completed the program, I did an internship, as is required in this program. and the rest is history. I decided I would do my internship at an agency that I thought could hire me, B, I would want to work at. And I chose Riverside County Sheriff's Department, and I've been there for 28 years. So with that said, the program itself, the foundational elements of the program hasn't changed. The course titles are the same course titles that were in place when I took the program. The content changes over time. In fact, I rarely teach the same class twice because the content changes, and new things and new ways of doing things are being developed in this program. So if you can see on the slide there are 2 prerequisites to the course, and those are important, kind of an introduction to criminal justice and criminal law, and then secondary criminal law substantive, which kind of goes through the process of penal codes and the judiciary process, which are good foundational elements for anybody wanting to work in law enforcement. And the core classes themselves are broken up into really a variety of different domains to some degree. So there's basic elements of intelligence analysis and criminal intelligence analysis. And I do serve on the executive board of LEIU. If you're not familiar with LEIU, LEIU has been the Association for State and Local and Tribal Law Enforcement in the United States and Canada since 1956. So we are supported by LEIU as well, and you do receive a certificate from LEIU, which is internationally recognized. As far as the different courses, there's so much to talk about each one. I'll just basically tell you that the basic elements is kind of an introduction to what is intelligence, and maybe a little bit of the history and the do's and the don'ts and the guidelines related to intelligence. And then criminal intelligence analysis, which is the second part of that course, does definitely get into the charting and graphing and visual side of intelligence analysis, where we're making link charts and diagrams and network analysis and association charts and things of that nature. And we're doing it the way it's done in the real world. We're using software. That software is called Link Explorer. And Link Explorer itself is been around for a long, long time. And Link Explorer is also something that will give you that you will actually be able to use while you're in class. As far as kind of moving forward, we get into the crime analysis, data analysis, and crime analysis applications courses. And these are kind of the root understanding of like setting up your data, how to review it, looking for things like MO, modus operandi, or method of operations, depending on where you're from. And you start to look at the factors of crime. And in that world, then you start to see how we can, again, diagram it so the average person looking at it can digest it in a very meaningful way. So there's also some statistics in there. They go through mean, median, mode, and some forecasting techniques that are utilized in the industry to predict when and where the next crime would occur. And then there is a research and statistical methods. It's taught by Dr. Raj Singh, and he's one of the authors of the first book on crime and intelligence analysis. And it's a really good overview of, from a crime analyst perspective, of conducting research projects and the different statistical methods. And it also kind of recovers some of the things that were done in the data analysis course to kind of nail down those basic foundational things that all of us need to do this job. And then, of course, we get into criminal investigative analysis 1 and 2. And again, this is taught by Dr. Joe Davis. And Dr. Joe Davis is, really world-renowned. He's an expert in a lot of different domains, but certainly in this course, it's a look at organized crime. It's a look at serial killers, serial rapists. It's a look at profiling, to go back to kind of an older term now referred to as criminal investigative analysis. And it's looking at the behavior of individuals and the behavior of people, which helps not only in those types of crimes, but really any kind of crime, whether you're looking at burglary or robbery, looking at the elements of the crime, what took place, what didn't take place, what did you expect would have taken place that didn't, and what took place that you never expected to have taken place. Those factors are super important and do play a role in kind of understanding the characteristics of the person who would commit such a crime. And it allows us to narrow down our suspects when you're talking like a serial crime, like a rape or serial murder, something along those lines. And then the computer applications course, I teach both the Intel courses and I teach the computer application course. And it's a concept course. We go through the different software applications that serve as the foundational elements for a crime analyst. Every agency and probably across the United States and Canada may have a different flavor that they use, but they're very similar in how they function. So understanding what to do and how to work with that software gives you a big leg up when you're interviewing for a job, where you can speak to kind of those components of it. And then finally, there's a requirement of a 400-hour practicum. If you're lucky enough to get a job after the program and you're working in the profession, well, that could count towards your 400 hours. But most students actually don't do that, especially here in California, where there's a requisite to be certified. So most of our students will finish the program and their internship. And then once they've completed those internship hours, that gives them experience that we can't possibly give them in a college setting, such as access to law enforcement databases and certain software applications that are only provided once you've passed an extensive criminal background. As far as the program itself, I can speak to this again. I'm a student of the program. I went through it its first year, and I can tell you from personal experiences that the classes are filled with people of all ages. When I was in the class, I was in my early 20s, and I had my partner went through the program with me. She was in her 60s and had just retired from General Motors. And we went through the program together. I went to work for Riverside Sheriff, and she went to France and worked for Interpol. As far as our backgrounds, again, very diverse backgrounds. We have some people in the class that are taking this because they are working in sworn positions and they want to bolster their resume, or they're working in non-sworn positions and they are looking to change careers. And then I'd say the overwhelming majority of students are either A, they've just graduated and they're trying to go into the profession, or two, it's a change of career for some, and that's not uncommon. Our students are curious. They're individuals who are tenacious. They do have to possess good computer skills. Certainly we will help with that. And going back to cover something that Danelle said, Cal State Fullerton offers something very unique in that it offers access to like Adobe Creative Cloud or Microsoft Office or the iOS system, so you can make sure that you have the latest software on your own computer while you're going through those courses, and that's very helpful. As well as the LinkedIn Learning, which used to be lynda.com, which, if, as a student to be able to take advantage of this, so if like I have a weakness in Excel, well, you can go through this learning program and watch videos on how to do something in Microsoft Excel to bolster up your skills, or Access or Photoshop or any number of applications that might be used in the program. As far as, again, I kind of mentioned a career change for some, resume enhancement for others. I've had entire sworn detective bureaus go through our courses. We've had in the past, LAPD sent them, Santa Ana PD locally here to us, sent officers and analysts through that program. Ultimately, what we try to develop in you and what you need to possess to be remarkable in this job, right? Not everybody at this level is good, but we really want you to get to another level. And that means you have to have good oral communication skills. You have to be able to write and have good written communication skills. And then finally, the visual communication skills, which is, not too unlike desktop publishing, where we generate flyers and posters and report covers and our own unique PowerPoint presentations. So if you want to ask a little bit about the graduates of the program, I can tell you that I've been teaching the program quite some time, and we have certainly people from local law enforcement, police and sheriff's departments all over the place. And not just here in California, but across the United States. And we also have a state law enforcement and federal law enforcement. So I have graduates of the program that are currently working at the CIA, at the FBI, at the ODNI, U.S. Marshals, and even we've had students who have gone back and created analytical units in their tribal police or organizations as well. So we really have a fairly broad range of places where students have gone to get jobs in law enforcement. But it's not the only place you can go. My own niece went through this program and is currently working for a very large insurance company doing fraud. And I have students who work in Las Vegas who deal with fraud and gamblers and crime, and students who work in asset protection jobs, from everything from Walmart to Target to Bed Bath and Beyond to, I mean, you name it, Kohl's. I mean, we have analysts who have graduated and are working in those places for individuals that may choose not to work in law enforcement. In fact, to be honest with you, a former detective of my department who was an analyst for about 7 years under me, he eventually retired and moved and is working for Union Bank. We have analysts who are working for Bank of America. So we have quite a few, actually. SunTrust Bank, we have an analyst that works there in a supervisory role. So it's not just a law enforcement job that this can apply to. Understanding these concepts of crime and intelligence analysis can spread beyond just law enforcement if that's your desire. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, there's so much that I'd want to share, but I think the most important part of this is getting the opportunity for you to ask questions about the program. And if you have some questions that we can answer, I'd be more than happy to do that.
Thank you so much, Brian. Yeah, I think that some questions have been added to the chat. So Makara, if you can let us know if there are some questions that are being asked in the chat that we can answer.
Yes, of course. So one question states, what are the different software programs we utilize throughout the entirety of the program? Are Python, R, etc. important tools?
Well, at some agencies, I suppose Python and R are important tools. I'd say the average crime analyst is not using either. So most analysts it depends on the agency they work for and the function that they work in. I currently kind of am serving two roles because I'm also doing some temporary duty assignment working with public health through this COVID/overdose epidemic that we're having, working with some of our overdose narcotics. Our epidemiologists for the county are using R and using SPSS much more so than an analyst at most of the agencies here locally. Our analysts are using Excel quite heavily. They're using SQL Express. They're using ArcGIS. They're using ArcGIS Pro. They're using Crime Map, a software application by Geospatial Technologies. They're using Photoshop for a variety of different ways to support detectives. And then we use like Link Explorer for our link analysis work, but we're also using programs like GeoTime for cell phone tracking. And I mean, there's a variety of applications that we could probably spend 15 minutes just talking about the different software applications and how they're used in our profession. But traditionally, I would say the average analyst is wearing a lot of hats. And because they're wearing so many hats, they don't necessarily are delving, or do they choose to delve so heavily into statistics as you would in a college course. These analysts are getting an excitement over helping solving crime, helping putting people away that need to, finding individuals. So there's another side of this, which is not traditionally taught, anywhere, which is like running people and doing background searches and open source intelligence, which is huge right now, and then of course, like I said, telephone toll analysis, where we're capturing information from an individual's cell phone. And then there's subpoena of records from Google and lots of other places that provide us with information about the patterns of individuals when you're looking at certain crimes. So hopefully that answers your question. Anything else, Makeda?
Thank you, Brian. Yes, we have another question. How much do crime analysts actually assist authorities in solving specific crimes and investigations? Is it more of a general statistics of crime role? And is the focus on poor neighborhoods, or are there things like domestic terrorism probabilities that someone in that role could help prevent?
So it just depends on the position and the agency you're working for. It also depends on, to some degree, if you are a crime analyst or if you are specifically an intelligence analyst. So our graduates who have gone on to work at the FBI and the CIA or a local agency's intelligence unit, which we have at our department and many in California have and across the US, then absolutely an analyst in the intelligence role would be looking at organized crime, would be looking at domestic terrorism, would be looking at groups and relationships between people and things of those nature. That just fits the definition of intelligence. Analysts who are supporting a local police department will do some of that, but much scaled back, and more than likely are supporting the department's needs. And it just depends on the agency. You could end up working for admin and do nothing but statistics, or you could be embedded with a detective bureau or a specialized unit. So at my department, we have analysts that work at stations. We have analysts, and those station analysts support their detectives. But then we have specialized detectives. We have homicide analysts. We have intelligence analysts. We have gang analysts. We have corrections analysts. We have human trafficking analysts, right? Admin analysts. So we have a variety of different roles and different positions as analysts that you can, fall into, and then you become more specialized in terms of, the job itself. But all of that really depends on where you're applying, what are their expectations, what are their needs for an analyst, and it varies. Every agency across the United States and Canada has a different take on that, but there are those foundational elements that kind of fit all those jobs and all those positions. Anything else, Makeda?
Thank you, Brian. Yes, there are quite a few internship questions. I will go ahead and answer them when I get a chance. Are the classes taught live via Zoom, or is it recorded previously? Are the classes graded pass or fail? So I can answer that. The class is taught live via Zoom. It is not recorded, and classes will be graded. There will be letter grades, but it is pass or fail credit. So credit or no credit. Mm-hmm. Are the crime analyst jobs that are part-time or from home? Oh, are there, sorry, I apologize. Are there crime analyst jobs that are part-time or from home, or are they pretty involved being in the office 40 hours a week?
Locally here, again, in California, I can think of only one agency, two agencies, I think Irvine and Chino, that have part-time analyst positions. As far as working from home, that's new to COVID. And certainly some agencies have allowed their analysts to work from home. I'd argue that that is a terrible decision. Mainly because, I mean, we need to be able to do it in certain circumstances, but the truth of the matter is you're interacting with the officers. You're going to briefing. You're going to detective meetings. Those officers are not Zooming that in. They're live bodies. You want to be able to be a part of that process. You want to develop relationships and rapport with every one of those officers. You want to be able to sit down with the captain and have a conversation. So does it work short term? Sure. I would never want to run an analytical unit where you're doing that full-time every single day. There may be a place for it in this new world of COVID, but I think there's a huge short side to that, which is unless you're interacting with these individuals and getting to know them on a personal level, you will never be as useful to the department as you possibly could be.
Thank you. We have another question. Do we have private investigators taking this program?
So actually, yeah, one of my students, works locally. Actually, she had applied to a couple law enforcement agencies, and for whatever reason, didn't feel like they were a good match for her. So she did hook up with a private investigator and has been doing it now for maybe 8 years. And every once in a while, she shoots me an email and says hello and asks what's up. But definitely, we do have some private investigators that go through this program and decide that they can use those skills and techniques in that job. And she certainly is using it. Yeah.
Thank
it's not
you.
as common. And let me just say this, it's not as common. I think students in this program, like ultimately, most of them like really want to work in law enforcement. Like that is like a drive. And I'm, to be honest with you, I have friends that have left, they've gone through the program. One young man went to the program and went to work for the Motion Picture Association of America, working in their intelligence unit. And he worked his way up to a very high level position and now has moved on and works for Sony, PlayStation. So bringing some of this idea, so intelligence and intelligence units exist beyond law enforcement, and there's a need for that. So if you're working, movie theft, or, it's trying to hunt down the people stealing your movies, is a big deal.
Thank you, Brian. Next question. What's the realistic expectation of getting a job in the industry without a criminal degree and only with this certificate?
Well, that's a tough one. More and more agencies are requiring a degree. 2 years with a certain amount of experience, or 4 years and no experience is the bare minimum set by something called, set after 9/11. And there were guidelines set by the Global Intelligence Working Group as to who to hire and why and how. Now, with that said, here in California, our local DOJ, California DOJ, does not require a degree. You can become an analyst with a high school diploma. But they pay less too. So, they're getting paid considerably less when they're starting off without a degree. And I'll tell you right now, I don't think the degree makes or breaks an analyst. I think if you have that analytical mind, you can do a great job. And I suppose if you were to successfully show that to someone, much like an artist, right? A degree to an artist doesn't mean a lot. If you're an artist, you're an artist. You're good, you're good. But many of these agencies determine pay and minimum qualifications based off of educational standards. So, for example, if I want to pay analysts more money, I can't do that unless I can raise the minimum standards for such a position. And that includes college education. So it is possible to find a job without a college degree, but I'm not going to lie to you. It's much harder than if you have one, by far.
Thank you, Brian. And next question. So you answered, okay, if a BA is needed. But just to clarify, oh no, you did not answer that. I apologize. Do you have to have a BA in order to be accepted in the certificate program? No, you do not. Do you need 400 hours of a criminal justice internship in order to apply, or is that after the program? That is during or after you've completed the courses in the program. You do not need to have 400 hours before beginning the program. What is the job demand in this specific career? Pretty much answered that, or do you want to add a little more?
I would say, the demand just continues to grow and grow as we need, the access to more and more information, especially in light of, current issues in law enforcement across the United States, where we're looking for ways to conduct law enforcement operations smarter. And what an analyst does is allow you to use your resources in a more effective manner. So rather than a police officer driving around randomly to try to have an impact on crime, having an analyst directing them and saying, well, this area is hot or that area is an issue, and that can have a huge impact on how successful we are in bringing crime down, and your crime control model over just random guessing and hoping you get it right. So anyway, that's my thought on that. There is a saying came out of Kansas City patrol study in the 70s, random patrol equals random results. So we try to eliminate the randomness of this by employing techniques and tools and software and algorithms to help us understand where crime is and where we should put police officers at a certain date or time to have an impact.
Thank you, Brian. I noticed that some people are asking more information about the internship, and I do just want to provide some clarification that we do provide, when you enroll, a practicum guide that has a list of agencies that our students have worked with in the past, and that also includes contact information for those agencies. So at least you'll have, it is your responsibility to obtain your internship and to do that. However, we do provide you with that resource.
And even if you were someone who was out of state, because I serve on the LEIU Executive Board that covers the entire US and Canada, you know, we have contacts in a lot of different states that we could reach out to and or at least give you the info who, you know, you could contact. But I suggest the thing with an internship is, you know, try to make it somewhere close to home if you can. And you know, just explaining to them, I mean, you may live in a city somewhere where they don't have an analyst, and that's not uncommon either for some of our students to kind of create positions within a police department if it's a small enough police department somewhere where they don't. That's hard to imagine in today's day and age, but I suppose it's entirely possible. So that you could go to an agency without one and say, these are some of the things that I can do, and I'd like to do an internship with you. And yeah, it goes faster than you might expect. And some people have turned those into full-on jobs where the agency is like, well, I got to have this. We're going to find a way to pay for this person. So.
Thank you. Next question, what is the class schedule? I can answer that. We have a total of 8 courses. 6 courses are offered in the spring and fall term. And then the remaining 2 courses are offered during the summer and winter term. So right now we have the spring schedule on our website, and the remaining 2 courses will be posted. Thank you, Danelle. The remaining 2 courses will be posted on March 16th at 8 a.m.
Yes, I thank you so much, Makara. I just wanted to pull this up real quick. I know that we're still doing some Q&A. We don't want to keep you any longer than an hour, so we want to be mindful of your time. Just wanted to give you some quick information as to how to enroll online. It's very easy to do so. It's basic, add to cart. So the website for where our class schedules are located in each of the class descriptions is listed there below at extension.fullerton.edu/professional development /certificates/crime. I know that's quite a long URL, but you've got it there. And you can add the selected courses to your cart, and if you had any trouble for any reason registering online, there is an email address for our student services office there if you'd like to take that down for your use as well. We will answer any last minute questions that come in. But before we do, I'll just go on to the next slide so that I can provide you with our contact information, just in case we didn't get to your question today, or if you think of something later and you want to get a hold of us, you're more than welcome to email Makara Seyum, and her email address is listed there, mseyum@fullerton.edu. Or you're welcome to email me. Again, my name is Danelle Pankratz, and my email address is dpankratz@fullerton.edu. So if you could jot those down. And we'd just like to thank you for, being here today, and hope that we get to welcome you into our Titan family, along with the other 500 or so graduates that we've had in this program. We would be happy to serve you. And I will stop share so that we can do just a closing poll, and then we'll deliver any last questions to Brian to answer. I'll launch that closing poll shortly. You all should see that poll coming up on your screen. I'll give you about a minute, about 60 seconds to complete that. Just 2 easy questions. Once again, thank you so much for taking time out of your Friday afternoon to join us. I hope that it's a long weekend for you. Those of us at Cal State Fullerton that are joining us today, we have Monday off, thankfully. Give you another about 30 seconds to complete that poll.
One of the things I can say, while you're doing the poll is the instructors that work in this program, like myself as an example. I mean, I'm working in the field right now and have since I graduated from this program. And I did an internship as well. It took me, I was working 2 jobs and I was doing an internship like just, 1 day a week, the best I could do. And it took me a while to get through, but I did it. And the internships are awesome. It's a great way to get exposed to all the different techniques and tools and software utilized and meet other analysts through localized meetings. So, and if we look at the individuals that are teaching in this program, man, we've got some really powerful people. Steve Sullivan, who teaches the data analysis course, has worked both for LA County Sheriff and Ventura County Sheriff, and he has a vast amount of experience, both coming from a analyst perspective, but also a sworn officer perspective as well. So we've got a really good group of instructors that will kind of walk you through those foundational elements. I keep seeing at the bottom one question that's coming up over and over again is Hoffman is the curriculum updated. It's such an interesting question, right? So I can tell you for my classes, every time I teach the class, there's a portion of it that's updated. But with that said, the classes are supposed to be foundational. They're supposed to be those building blocks from which you build on in the rest of your career. So there are things that are foundational and have been that way forever and ever and ever since the profession started. And there are some things that we're updating all the time to meet the changes in software, the changes in techniques, or the changes in law, for God's sakes, right? Here in California, across the United States, we have lots of changes in law. And those are things that we have to stay abreast of and incorporate those into our classes to keep our students, up to date. But there are elements of the class, research, its statistical methods are probably something that hasn't changed a whole lot. Just the topics have changed. And really understanding those topics, I think, is important. But anyway, that's just a side note that I wanted to share and answer a question I saw that was popping up.
Thank you so much, Brian. And I saw the poll results. It looks like what the majority of us got out of today's session was that our instructors, like Brian, are very experienced and passionate people who are working in the industry. And they are all very excited about making sure that our students are equipped to work as crime analysts. So thank you for sharing that takeaway, and that most of you are unfortunately doing a lot of work and homework over the coming weekend. I hope that you are able to rest and enjoy, and maybe enjoy a movie or an outing of some sort as well. I do see that there are some questions, just very basic questions in terms of, and I'll remove your spotlight, Brian, so you're not front and center. But I did want to just let you know that you do not have to pay for the entire program all at once. You're more than welcome to register for one class at a time and pay for that one class at a time. There's also no specified time that you have to complete the program. So if it takes you a year, if it takes you a year and a half, if it takes you 3 years, that's okay. As Marketa mentioned, you're welcome to go ahead and start the internship right as after you've got a couple courses under your belt, or if you'd prefer to wait until you're done with all of the courses, you're welcome to start your internship after you're done with those as well. And then I see that some people are asking, can you take more than one class at a time? And unfortunately, you can't. The classes do not overlap. So you're welcome to enroll for more than one class at a time, but you will only be in one class at a time, if that makes sense. I see that someone is also asking, do classes fill up fast? We've been very blessed to have a lot of people joining us lately. So yes, I would say that classes do fill up fast. I would recommend, especially for virtual class, is that you register no later than a week in advance of the course start date. As we showed earlier, our first class, Basic Elements, will begin on February 27th. So I would say, register by February 20th, around there. If you want to ensure that you have your portal set up and your Canvas class ready to go, so that you can attend the first day of class. So I hope that you all got a lot out of today's session. I know that it was a pleasure to present this information to you, and always a pleasure, Brian, to hear your stories and insights about the program. Thank you so much for all that you shared. Again, if you have any questions that you think of later, or that we didn't get the chance to address in today's session, please feel free to email either Makata or myself. Again, she can be reached at mseyoum@fullerton.edu. She'll be happy to help you. Thank you so much, everyone. We'll close out now, and I hope that you all have a wonderful weekend.